But first, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom. And let's see, I'm going to go on my computer so I can see you. How about a heart tap so I know that you're out there? Shana Tova. Well, as you well know, we are living in an unbelievable period in human history. And so I just, before I even begin, want to take a deep breath to recognize the significance of this moment. For never in my career did I imagine something like this. And so I just want to thank Stephen Ashkenos, our executive director, and our entire administrative team and our production team. Never did I think that I would be able to give a sermon on Rosh Hashanah, and you would be able to fall asleep in front of me while in bed, literally. Now, tonight, I hope you don't fall asleep, as comfortable as you may be, because I actually want you to wake up. Because we have work to do this year in our learning programs and worship opportunities and social justice initiatives. You know, we know that we have work to do because our world needs us. Global pandemic, economic disparity, torn nation, wildfires, upcoming election, civil unrest, moral crisis. And we as a community can lead with love and justice. But it's going to have to take place from home, b'bayit, for our safety. And so I guess I just have to begin with thanks for tuning in. The world needs us. For we are the inheritors of 3,000 years of tradition. We are the beneficiaries of 3,000 years of inspiration and wisdom. We are a people that has known plague and pogrom, pain and persecution. And over again, we have risen. And we as a community will too. And so welcome. 5,781. For centuries, we have gathered on Rosh Hashanah. Now, admittedly, we have never done so before on Zoom, but we have gathered as a people to hear our ancient words, Unetana Tokef, Kedushat Hayom, Ki hu norav ayom, meaning, let us proclaim the sacred power of this day. It is awesome and full of dread. On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, we read, and on Yom Kippur, it is sealed. Who shall live and who shall die? Who shall see ripe age and who shall not? Who shall perish by fire and who by water? Who by sword and who by beast, who by hunger and who by thirst, who by earthquake and who by plague. And at this moment, I just want us to stop. Who by plague? I don't know. I don't know. We've lost too many. Just 2 days ago, a mother of a TB member died of COVID-19. And I know in the year ahead, more will come. Nearly 200,000 Americans have died from this pandemic. Who will die by plague? I don't know. Please, God, Kodvenu b'Sefer HaChaim, inscribe us. Inscribe us in the book of life. Now, I want you to know that I don't believe in a God with a long white beard that sits up high in the heavens with a spiral notebook and a long quill pen inscribing people in the book of life. But I do believe in the poetry of the prayer book, that when it says that God inscribes us in the book of life, it means that what we do matters, that our acts, every act is recorded and remembered for years to come. Even the small acts that sometimes we don't even notice. God records them That's what our tradition wants us to know, that even amidst life's uncertainties, and this year there are many, that we have some control in how we live our lives, in how we'll be remembered. And that is the reason why we come here on the High Holy Days, even on Zoom. That is to get better. That is to be better, because the world needs us. And so the Talmud comes to help. Our sacred book of over 1,700 years of Jewish wisdom comes to amplify the metaphor of the book of life, when it says that when God actually takes the quill and the paper and decides who to write in the book of life, God first does a little research, which I want to share with you this evening. It's playful because the metaphor is meant to be playful. But according to the Talmud, while you're standing at the gates of heaven and God is considering whether to write you in the book of life, God actually asks you 4 questions. And that's what I want to explore with you this evening. 4 questions that I actually hope will anchor us for the entire High Holy Days. So, number 1, God will ask you, Kavate itim la Torah, do you set aside time for learning? Meaning, no matter how busy you are, how busy you were, did you set aside time to think and grow? Whether you are sick or healthy, married or divorced, working or laid off, did you learn from life's joys and sorrows? And this year, I actually think it's easy to learn babayit in your house. You can study in your pajamas. You could study in your workout clothes. And God will ask, did you set aside time for learning? Because it matters. Number 2, God will ask us, asakta b'priya urvia, which means, did you make time for family? Did you have the right work-life balance? Did you care for others? Were you present for them, especially those who are close to you? And this one is also easy this year. Call a family member. After services tonight, pick up the phone. You don't need to drive home. Reach out to them on Zoom. Mail a card. We have been given a gift. More people these past several months are connecting with family or old friends or college roommates or childhood buddies than ever before. Number 2, did you make time for your family? Number 3, nasata be'emunah, meaning God will ask you, did you do business with integrity? Meaning in my mind that God's asking, basically saying, it's easy to be a good person when times are easy. But were you a good person when times got tough? When the demands of life, whether they be in business or at home, pulled at you? Were you generous or caring? And this, too, I believe, can be easy this year. Give tzedakah, write a check, small or large. There are so many people who need us. So number 3, did you do business with integrity? Number 2, did you make time for family? Number 1, did you do a little learning each day? And finally, number 4, the last one. And this is an interesting one. According to the Talmud, God will ask you at the gates of heaven, did you keep hope alive? Because according to the Talmud, God is basically saying, did you live your life with the knowledge that even amidst life's uncertainties, it can get better? In fact, that's the Jewish story from the beginning of the Torah. We learn that the goodness of creation was actually created out of chaos, out of uncertainty. And now modern psychology has actually amplified this notion. I don't know if you were able to see an article in The Atlantic recently that talked about post-traumatic growth. That when we look back on our lives years from now, sometimes we find that the moments of the greatest growth actually came after moments of chaos, of pain, of uncertainty. That when we look back on our lives and see the most difficult moments in life, and this may be one of them, it is then that we see greater resilience, richer relationships, deepened spirituality, heightened creativity, even a greater appreciation for life. And that is what I hope will be our story. So here's the exercise this year. I'm not giving out a book. We're going to write one as a community. I want us to write our own community's book of life. And so here we go. Every evening, beginning this evening, you're going to receive a question at home, but by email, based on one of the 4 questions that God asks in heaven. And I hope that each day or each night, you'll sit down and you'll simply write one entry each day for the 10 days of repentance until Yom Kippur. You'll actually find the questions on the Shalom cards that you received in your Shalom baskets if you were able to pick them up at the temple. These were made specifically for our temple, crafted by a wonderful committee, Vicki Rakov and Danny Novisky, Amy Gore and Allison Kerr, beautifully designed by Gabe Snyder. I hope you'll take a look. I hope you'll answer the questions and you'll send them back to me. And together we're actually going to write our book of life so that one day in the future, our children or our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren or our descendants or some history student working on a PhD at Brandeis or Harvard or Wellesley or Tufts will dust off an ancient book and see the title, Temple Beth Elohim, the pandemic of 2020, how a Jewish community lived. And they will find that we cared for each other. We reached out to the needy. We lifted the downtrodden. We reached out to the oppressed. My prayer is that he dusts off that book and learns from our history, and that our descendants will be proud. This is our moment. This is our story. This is our book of life. Welcome, 5,781. L'Shana Tova. Happy New Year.